Happy Memorial Day, Julie Coher.
Happy Memorial Day, Jason Paget. Thank you for your service.
Yes, and it is so weird to say that because being transparent, it's actually Saturday, but this will go out on Monday. So happy Memorial Day to everybody out there. If you're in Indiana, then ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. Right? It's
Oh,
race.
yeah, the Indy 500.
Yeah, the big, you know what? I hope our boss doesn't listen to this, but we got invited to go to the Indy 500 track this year, and he's from New York and newly transplanted here, so I was really excited for him. But it rained, and I didn't end up being able to go. He went. They had a suite. It was like Fast Friday, and I was like, oh God, I don't have to do all that walking, and like I'm not a motorsports guy, and the racetrack is cool once, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
I've never been. I'm not, it's not my thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a really cool museum and everything. Like, if you had like a niece or a nephew or somebody who's really into it, like I guess going on the day of the race is an experience that people like to have. But just going to the track, the Brickyard, is actually a pretty cool experience because they have a very historic museum and everything. But
Huh.
yeah, it's not really my thing either. What is my thing is artificial intelligence, and apparently, it is not the thing of a lot of graduating classes of 2026.
Yeah.
Have you
I
heard
was,
all the booing?
oh, I haven't heard the booing. No.
Three commencement ceremonies. The University of Arizona, Eric Schmidt, who used to be the CEO of Google, was given a commencement ceremony. University of Central Florida, Gloria Caulfield, I don't know who she is. And then Middle Tennessee University, Scott Borchetta, who was the CEO of Big Machine Records. All three booed almost to the point of not being hearable because they started talking about artificial intelligence. So
Oh, interesting.
yeah. Oh, yeah. There's also a statistic that says 40% of Gen Alphas who are currently in the workforce report sabotaging AI inside their companies.
Interesting.
We have,
I'm just not an extremist on either end of things, right? I'm such a find a way to find middle ground that, I don't know. It's interesting. I understand change is hard and it's inevitable, so it's like, why are we going to fight against it? I think there's middle ground. I just think there's middle ground. There's always middle ground.
well, next Saturday, or the 30th, I'm going to have the kids from Richmond High School tech team who just presented at an AI symposium I was at and blew everyone away. So Richmond High School in Richmond, Indiana, has a tech team that has been using Magic School. Like their tech leader, when they first got Magic School, had them red team it and try to hack their way, try to break it, which I absolutely loved. The idea that that was the first way he engaged the kids, was he gave them 2 weeks to see if they could break Magic School and get it to do things it wasn't supposed to do. And apparently it passed the test. But these kids are not only working with other kids on how to integrate AI in a way that is helpful to them, but they're also working alongside the teachers in the Richmond Community School District, and they're just they are the shining example of, I think, what embracing this technology could be. Now, I have a personal opinion on why I think it's our own fault. A lot of people will say that it's the tech leaders who have caused this horrible negativity by saying things like AI is going to end 50% of white collar jobs, or we have to be careful, or it might take over the world. What's your PDUM? But I'm going to turn that back on the American public and say that's the only news you people want to listen to. So why
Mm,
wouldn't they be like hyperbolic and extremist in their messaging? Because that's what we click on. That's what we follow. That's what we like.
mm. Rage baiting.
Yeah,
Mm.
that is
It,
something I think we need to turn around.
I agree. I think also, whoever's covering the stuff, be it independent or big media, I think that's also falls on everybody's responsibility and due diligence to, stop inciting fear, right? So, like, because the thing that bothers me when it comes to these extreme views is we're not taking a moment to see all the good that AI is either doing, like, all the AlphaFold stuff, the stuff that's moving forward with genetic engineering. These kinds of things exist, and they exist because of AI, and that doesn't get highlighted like all the fear mongering stuff does. So it's interesting because what you resist persists, right? So, like, you're really choosing to make life harder and more miserable I think you and I talk about this kind of stuff a lot. Like, when you resist it so hardcore, like, it's just going to make it that much more miserable when you can find a way to lean in a bit, and utilize it, but like also stick with whatever your beliefs are. And you and I have talked about it now for probably 3 episodes, where if data centers and these billionaires and all that came to the community and the community had an opportunity to say, all right, no, but if you put money back in our schools, if you use solar, if you negotiate the situation, because it feels like, from an outsider, it feels like right now it's one or the other, right? So it's either, yes, I'm going to put my data center here and we're just going to take it over, or absolutely not, from the community, go away. You know what I mean? So, like, neither is a win for anybody. Like, forcing your belief onto somebody else on either side is not what I would consider collaboration or a win. If ultimately we all need to work together, then we got to find a way to work together.
That is so well said. And I will say, bravo. I mean, it's been amazing to watch you embrace this topic. And when I think about what you just said about how it's media's responsibility not to over inflammate negativity and things like that, like, okay, local radio, like, you are, without trying to, making a case for why things like local radio are still very relevant, because I listen to your station, and I never hear. I hear Q Cares, which highlights nonprofit things that are going on around the community. I hear about local community events and business opportunities. What I never hear is, like, the end of the world's coming, and we should all be we should all be rallying against SK Hynix, who's trying to put a data center over in West Lafayette. Like, I'm sure if that community conversation came to the point where there was one, you guys would say, hey, there's a community conversation about the data center SK Hynix wants to put up. Here's the date and time. If this is something you care about, we would recommend that you show up so that your voice can be heard.
Yeah.
But you don't say they're going to drain the Tippecanoe River or the Wabash River, and we're all going to be waterless in 3 years.
Yeah. And I really do find it interesting that those are the two ends of the spectrum, right? Those are the conversations that are had. Oh, and I get it. I do understand that it uses water as a resource. But I also know that in reality, it's not as black and white as either end of the spectrum wants us to believe. So, there has to be a way, and I don't have the answer, I mean, I just know there has to be a way for people to understand two things can exist as truth at once, and there's ways to meet in the middle. And, but anytime a human has an extreme view, it becomes much more difficult because you can't communicate or negotiate when there's these hard lined, this is my belief, whatever side. Like, it just becomes very complicated and much uglier than it needs to be. So
It
I don't
does.
know where the resolution starts, but there has to be some communication.
Yeah, I think it starts with mutual respect and communication. And one of the education podcasts put out a report of a big report that actually shows, like, if you care about water and energy and all this, like, it actually compares, like, social media use, eating beef. Like, there's tons of things that are way worse than AI. That's always my go-to is always like, you're wrong and here's why, right? But I honestly think that's not the right approach either. The approach is to hear what everybody's saying and then have kind of a pragmatic conversation about it. I do want to point out, you remind me of Sundar Pichai and Demis Hassabis. So Google I/O was this week, which is their big annual conference, and they announced all kinds of stuff they're doing with AI. They're kind of like all over the board. Eventually, I mean, never could count Google out. They just need to kind of figure out like which platform you're on so that you can actually navigate how to use their AI. But all that aside, the final keynote was Demis Hassabis. Okay,
Mm.
so Sundar Pichai is their CEO. So let's take one step back. I heard Sundar Pichai interviewed afterwards on a podcast, and somebody asked him about AGI, artificial general intelligence, and when he thinks it's going to happen. And Sundar essentially said, like, I'm the leader of one of the biggest companies in the world. Like, I have to be real careful about how I answer a question like that, right? So it could be in 5 years, it could be in 10 years. I honestly don't know. I may have some thoughts, but nobody really knows for sure right now. And the podcaster said, well, what about what Demis said when he closed his keynote? Because Demis ended his keynote with, we are standing at the foothills of the singularity,
Hmm.
which is a huge statement. A singularity is essentially when artificial intelligence begins improving itself and becomes much smarter than human beings. So
Okay.
Demis, who, normally just talks about science and things like that, ends his keynote with that. And so the podcaster's like, what about what Demis said? And Sundar goes, yeah, Demis and I have had several conversations about that. And I just laugh that the pain that the CEO must have because his lead scientist is throwing stuff out there that now he has to try to answer for.
Yeah. It's really interesting because even with the thought of singularity and this idea that AI being more intelligent than humans, I wonder what that looks like because does that mean does AI find a way to find the middle? You know what I mean? Like I don't know because that is not my world. That's not my realm. I don't understand it, but you know, there has to be a catalyst of some sort that leads us to the middle because we're gonna have to. It's not gonna not happen, you know, and it also doesn't have to be forced down your throat. So I don't know. Maybe the singularity is the answer to the middle.
I mean, that's what all the big tech guys want to say. The singularity is the answer to all the other problems, like the water and the energy and all that. Like AI, once it's smart enough, it'll not only let us live for another 100 years each, but it will also like cure cancer and figure out all these other things. Sometimes I think that's a nice thought. It's always plan for the worst, hope for the best, plan for the worst. I think is kind of to to try to contemplate how something that thinks smarter than us is going to do things is really humanly impossible, right? It's like try like God doesn't answer where we came from, neither does the Big Bang. Like there are certain things that we just can't answer because it's beyond our comprehension. And I think what machines will do when they're much more intelligent than us is another one of those unanswerable questions.
See, and that's where you go, oh, well, if UAPs and aliens are real, they might know. You know what I mean? Like, they might hold the answer to all of it, and that will be unveiled at some point, too. So,
Yeah, that is a very interesting approach, and I'm still looking forward to seeing what comes out of the released UFO files. There was a Japanese physicist that's like 80 years old that's been trying to solve Einstein's theory of everything for the last 70 years of his life on Dwarkesh recently, and he essentially said that uh, in his in his uh, in his opinion, we have only had close encounters of the first kind. So the first kind is seeing stuff in the sky that you don't understand or can't explain. The second kind is finding relics like a body or a piece of an aircraft. And the third kind is like going up and shaking their hand and talking to them. He says
mm,
he's not really seen any evidence of the second kind, but we will see. That's one physicist. So we will
yeah,
see.
yeah, you know, it, even the first kind, it's just very, even these pilots and, all that stuff who see things, it's like, yeah, okay, well, that means the next step will eventually come, right? I would assume. That would be my assumption.
Yeah. And they may unfold together. AI may allow us to look deeper into all that.
Right. Who knows? I mean, who knows? And it's, that's the stuff that can excite me for where it can go. I love the idea, like that AlphaFold documentary was a big game changer for me and how I saw AI. So thank you for encouraging me to look into that because, my algorithm does feed all the negative and I understand, but like everything comes with good and bad. Every single thing, every person that is born comes with good and bad. So the fact that we think that there's some, hard lined answer is wild to me. Like, I'm excited. Curing cancer, curing autoimmune issues, helping with joints and stuff so you don't have to necessarily have major surgery. Like, that's exciting stuff. Why would we not want that to exist?
I agree. I will say before AI, crackpots like Tim Harris that take like 75,000 supplements a day to try to live until they're 130 or whatever. Like I used to just be like, whatever, dude. Like you're a billionaire, spend your money on whatever you want.
Right.
Now that we are where we are, and after watching that and looking at all of this, like I actually have started to try to improve my health because I'm like, you know what? There is a chance I will live much older, and I don't want to be in horrible health if
Right.
that comes around. I don't want to have like let my like said, I've lived a hard life, whatever, I'm gonna get old and like let my health go to shit. And then all of a sudden they figure out how to not fix that stuff I broke so much that's unfixable, but how to keep me perpetually alive for an extra 50 years. And now I'm like miserable for an extra 50 years. That is realistic enough now that I'm actually starting to pay attention to it.
No, I love that. That's wonderful. And it is eye-opening when we can take a moment. It's just like life. When you can take a moment and see the good,
Yeah.
then you continue to see the good, right? And it's not that you block out negativity, but it's if you get to choose ultimately how you see life and how things play out, why wouldn't you want to see the good, right? Like, oh, now I can probably live another 50 years. What do I want that to look like? Like, I love that for you. I love that for you because we all have a real opportunity with AI, as scary as it may sound and all that, but to live a more balanced life, right? So, like, but it is finding ways. It's that whole solar punk idea of finding ways for it to all work together, but refusing it isn't working together. So that's very interesting. I understand that these are younger generations and they're coming out and it's a different world and college doesn't necessarily hold the weight that it once did, right? Like I carry a house in student loan debt and I graduated before all of this. You know what I mean? Like, so I understand, but also you just gotta like lean in, find something that works for you, find ways and value in who you are and what you actually want to do with your life and like lean in because it can just run beside you.
Well, and I think you bring up a really good point. We always think the young generation is going to destroy everything. Like I'm an Xer, you're a millennial. I remember when millennials were entering the workforce, there was books. Everyone was like, yeah, these people walk in the door thinking we should kiss their ass like they're the CEO and it's day one and they want to, they want this and they want that. And actually, and I will say the millennials have had probably one of the most positive impacts on work-life balance and the workforce of any generation. Like the boomers, I don't know about the boomers. Like they were hippies one minute, then they were capitalists the next. Like they went through a lot of phases. We'll just say that they did the best with what they had. But Gen X saw the big corporations screw the boomers over, and we were kind of like, whatever, screw you all. I'm just going to do my thing and worry about me. And maybe that looks like working for a company for a long time. Maybe it looks like hopping jobs all the time. I'm going to worry about me. And the millennials came and said, like, no, like this whole workforce environment thing really needs to be addressed. And it
Mhm.
has been greatly addressed. And everybody else but the millennials were like, they're gonna ruin everything. It's over now. These kids are so entitled and this so it is kind of natural to think that the mindset of the incoming workforce is going to be destructive, but that oftentimes does not end up being the case.
True. Well, and as we are living right now and all like disruption also doesn't have to be bad. It can lead to good things, right? So like I always, even just using my own personal life, for example, like stuff that I have gone through that I didn't want, right? Like a divorce, but has led to such wonderful, beautiful things in my life that I wouldn't trade for anything. So disruption even it's not necessarily bad. These kids are they're coming, they're gonna come in, they're gonna come in hot, and they're gonna change things, and we don't know what that's gonna look like, and that can be exciting, right?
Agreed. Agreed. And speaking of disruption, I walked into my daughter's room last night. She had a friend spend the night. She's 15, and I was talking to her, and she looks up and she goes, "I thought you were working." And I said, "I have 3 agents. They are working in the other room on my computer. So, yeah, I am." To which I got an eye roll. But we are at that point if you're leveraging this stuff to where, like, one was doing some research on a topic that I think is going to become really, really paramount. One was reorganizing the inbox in 3 of my Gmails. And the other one was putting together some social media content for me while I was in the other room eating something and talking to my kid. Like, that was not possible a few months ago.
No, you're right. And I understand, I shouldn't say I know, I understand that the AGI portion is also just moving faster and faster and faster to the point where like you can't even really cover it with media because it's changing so quickly. And that's interesting. It can be exciting. You know, I actually leaned in, and it's just Google, right? It's just Gemini. Um, Dealing with some of my mom's stuff, right? Like really trying to fully understand what she might be experiencing. Cause I'm like, it's not this thing that people keep wanting to put it in, right? They keep wanting to say it's dementia. And I'm like, but it's not. Cause I looked at all her CT scans, you know. So like I dug in with Gemini, but it led me to also articles from, the Cleveland Clinic, the Mayo Clinic, the National Institute of Health, all that gave me a better picture of what delirium is and how it's misdiagnosed constantly and all this stuff. So now I'm like going in and I'm advocating on the front end. I'm going in and I'm going, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Before you say it's this, it is absolutely textbook that. And this is how we can work with it. And no, I'm not a medical professional, but that Gemini gave me such a deep dive into it and then led me to other things that I'm like, this is great. Like I'm
How
not
was that
complaining.
received?
Not great by some other people, I got to be honest with you, the facility my mom's currently at, unfortunately this is our third one, but I don't know if it's because I've been very upfront about I call every day, I expect this is what our experience has been, and then also the research on top of it. I don't know if it's because I'm much more proactive, but the team has been they've worked with me well, right? So they understand delirium when I talked about it. They understood that she's experiencing like the 2 forms of it because she has a blood infection, right? That's sepsis. That's scary stuff. So like, but this is the first time I could go in and say, this is what we're dealing with. And I mean, it is textbook, Jason. It is like freaky. She had, I took her for her follow-up appointment on Wednesday. The night before, she had called me a bunch of times and I knew that I set off her delirium because anytime somebody in that state gets stressed out, it causes more inflammation in the brain. And then it's like, she didn't know what day it was. She didn't know what time it was. She was worried that we were going to be late, like all these things. And I was just like, this is textbook. You know what I mean? Like, and thank goodness the AI, I guess, it just made it so much faster for me to be able to figure things out and, advocate better for her.
Yeah, you didn't have to go to the Chicago Medical School library and start at the card catalog and
Yeah.
spend hours in right. I think that's a beautiful use case, and I hear more and more of these use cases where people are advocating for themselves or their loved ones, and they're having an informed conversation with medical staff about, hey, let's make sure we're not overlooking that it could be this according to like vetted medical sources.
Vetted medical sources. And it's really interesting because, I think there's some resistance to, it was AI, it wasn't whatever. And it's like, but here's the backup. You know what I mean? Like these are like medical professional reports or whatever the heck you call it, but it's like it pulled it from that. Sure, it gets things wrong, but guess what? A doctor does too. Like, what are you going to trust your life to a doctor? And I love that Jim Stone jokes about it, but it's called a medical practice for a reason. And guess what? They are just as human as you and I are. So they're going to make mistakes, just like they missed my mom's kidney stones for 7 months. Like, hello, it's okay if it makes a mistake. Like, it's okay. It's maddening. It's interesting.
Yeah, and you've just said a bunch of positive things, and I'm going to go ahead and piss the world off. There are a lot of studies coming out that AI is currently out-diagnosing doctors.
And I can understand that, and I can understand why. And it prompts you. That's what's interesting. So it'll prompt you, right? So when I was looking things up for my mom, it'll prompt, okay, but what about this or this situation? Give me a little more detail here so it can pull more resources. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Because then I could literally type in my lived experience and it was like, oh, it's this. You know what I mean? And compare it with, I used it to sort of translate what the CT scan said because all that's in all language I don't understand. And it has just led me to such a better place.
That is such a positive story. I love that.
I'm excited about it, man. I really, for the first time in 8 months, really, really feel like my mom has a real fighting chance now. And I hate that it's taken this long, but it is what it is. And we learn as we go. Right. So,
I'm just going to say out loud, for the AI that generates the show notes for this and the social media posts, like that story right there is what makes these episodes worth doing and these conversations worth having. And I do think the universe has aligned. Maybe it's rewarding you for your AI use, because your boy Elon got his ass kicked in court
I
recently.
did
Did you
see
see that?
that. Yeah, I did see that. Not that I fully understood, all, but I did see that he lost.
Yes. The
Very
jury
interesting.
decided that he didn't file within the statute of limitations, so they went
Mm,
back to the records, and according to the records, OpenAI had let him know that, or Brockman and Altman had let him know that they were considering shifting to a for-profit in like 2018 via text and email. So that was when he received that is when the statute of limitations would have started, and it's a 3-year statute of limitations. So he either
mm.
hit lawyers who didn't see into that, or he just did all this as a play to try to slow down OpenAI and cause them problems when they're thinking about going for an IPO, which is, for people who don't know, an initial public offering. It's when they go from being a private company to a public company, which SpaceX just did this last week.
Oh, interesting.
The largest IPO ever. And now it's looking like Anthropic may have its first quarter of profitability instead of being in the red.
Oh,
And one of the lead scientists who helped start OpenAI, Andrew Karpathy, and who's really big in all this, just signed on to Anthropic. So there are those who think that it's looking like Elon is going to shift to being a hyperscaler. He will provide compute rather than worry about whether the Grok is really that great of a model, and compete with Jensen Huang instead of competing with Sam Altman and Dario Amodei and these foundation models. And that Anthropic has pretty much won when it
well,
comes to foundation models, and we'll see. I mean, that's not my guess. I think we thought that Google was out of the race a year and a half ago. We were like, "Oh, search is dead. Google's going to go bankrupt." Like, I wasn't saying that. A lot of people were saying that. I was saying Apple's out of the race, and they're not. But we tend to think. I mean, things are just changing and progressing so fast. There's no real way to say anybody's won or anybody's out of the game, because one one development can change everything.
and so fast. So
Yes.
fast. Interesting.
Yeah, and Zuckerberg has been in the news as well. It is funny. Maybe I told you this, but one of the funniest things. So I had the guy from the China Tech guy on the podcast, and from the Tech Strategy podcast. And the funny thing that he said was that in this whole court case thing, he was like, Altman and Brockman are starting to make Mark Zuckerberg look trustworthy, because he used to be the one that everyone was like, he's the demon who has poisoned us all with social media. But
Mm,
recently he's laying off another 8,000 people, and they have
mm,
put in all their keyboards like complete monitors to train AI, which actually makes sense. The sad thing about this is I wish I could do that. Like, if my AI could monitor everything I do on whatever machine I'm on all the time, it could learn so much better how to do what I do that it would
Mm.
be very useful. So as an individual, I totally get that. To try to sell that to your employees as a company is a real hard sell because you're basically saying, we're figuring out not only how to train our model, but how to train a lot of you out of being necessary.
Hmm. I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting, but at least they're having the conversation, right? I mean, they talk to the employees first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes, he basically said, "Yeah, we need to train our model better." So
Okay.
he basically said, "You're the smartest people." Like, he tried to say, human factor reinforcement learning has been done by morons in the past who just click yes or no. Now it's being done by experts. You're some of the smartest experts in the world. So using you for human factor reinforcement learning is going to drastically improve our model.
Okay. Okay.
But he didn't follow that with, which is going to end up getting higher profitability for all of you and opening new positions and keeping you here. He just basically said, hey, feel good about yourself because you're a great AI trainer. It might replace you, but at least you got to take part in making a better machine.
Interesting. Yeah. Business decisions, that's a whole other
It
world.
is. It is, and it does go back to that conversation that I think that is why the boos are happening with these kids, is nobody's talking about how this is gonna trickle down. I think that's the big problem. I don't really even think it's the doomer stuff of, the Terminator might wake up and all the robots will kill us or all of our jobs will be gone. It's just we don't talk about, okay, if this does make everything more abundant, what does that look like? Like, how does that trickle down? Is it just a handful of really, really rich people who
Right.
play philosopher king and decide how the rest of us live, or are we going to democratize the outcomes of this for all of at least all the United States and hopefully all of mankind?
Yeah. That's the looming question.
It is. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to end on a negative note. What are you doing for Memorial Day weekend?
Well, I wanted to go to Michigan because I wanted to check out. I haven't been to Michigan in a million years, but my reduced engine power light came on. So I think I'm staying local until I can't even get that looked at until Tuesday. Um, but there's some things happening. There's some Memorial Day stuff at Columbia Park. There's also something happening at like the Veterans Home that I might take a moment, get out to that. But we shall see. If that light magically turns off, then I'll head to Michigan because it's only like 2 hours away. But if that light stays on, I'm staying local because I talked to two mechanics on the phone and they were like, 50-50 chance it'll just shut off. And I'm like, oh, well, interesting.
What did Gemini have to say about it?
Gemini said it could be anything from like a faulty sensor to, something more serious. So it too was kind of like, the same thing the mechanic said. We don't know until somebody can look at it, but it's still under warranty. So that's the good news is hopefully it won't cost me a bunch of money.
Playing it safe is probably the right move. This is a good argument for Tesla, though, right? So if the AI was in part of your car, it could probably let you know what the problem was.
Probably. And knowing me is probably a sensor issue, whatever. But I'd rather just it's under warranty, get it looked at, be because I use that car, I go home a lot now.
Yeah.
So I need that to be, a safe vehicle for that. And it's only like 3 years old, so it annoys me, but whatever.
Well, good for you for paying attention to the warning signs. When those lights come on in my car, I just pretend like they're not on.
Yeah. I think if I was mostly local, I would probably not pay as much attention, but because my parents need me right now, I like need my vehicle to be good to go no matter what. So,
Well, we need you too. And I do believe the next time you and I talk, we are going to have someone from TechPoint with us as well.
awesome. That'll be great.
Yes. I look very forward to it. Chris will be on that podcast. I want you to have a wonderful weekend and continue to tell us how Gemini helps you navigate navigate your mother's health issues.
Thank you. Are you doing anything this weekend? Are you doing anything? Are you going? I mean, what are you doing?
My son's birthday is this weekend, so I am going tonight to my dad's house and celebrating with my son and his girlfriend who recently graduated from IU. Not doing a whole lot. My daughter from San Diego, who just had a baby, is coming in the second week of June for like 10 days. So that's really kind of when the big
Awesome.
festivities will be. And her husband, who is he was doing tech for a big company out in San Diego. Now he's with another company. He and I are going to totally nerd out. Josh and I are going to, I love that I'm going to have somebody that I can talk to in the house because I have to leave my house. It's not easy to find people who are as into AI as I am. And so
Yeah. Well, congratulations, Grampy.
thank you.
That's
Thank you.
exciting. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
All right, Julie. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will see you next time.